Hi, this is Winged again, and I'm here to communicate about the one-atom gods. This is another self that we discovered during the process of finding out what exactly it is that is busy going on in the dimensional existence, and why there has never been direct support and intervention from the dimensions here on Earth, because it was just unacceptable. You know, we're all in this existence, and a simple question was asked with regards to why is there no practical support and directive assistance to human beings here on Earth. And so the one-atom God, now we refer to it as a one-atom God because this self, this part of self, the one-atom God, we found way, way, way in the center of human beings, like way in the center, as an atom. And it was interesting because this one-atom God of each and every single human being, we communicated with them. It was way in the beginning of the process. And what was fascinating is they were only there for a moment as we started to understand who they are and where they come from, and why they exist, for that matter. And so we discovered that the one-atom gods was able to go back way, way, way in the beginning. Your very, very, very first life experience or incarnation into this existence. And then from the beginning tell you why and what lives you specifically chose to experience, to prepare yourself for this process that is busy unfolding of manifesting heaven as earth in oneness and equality. So we've all been preparing for what is to come since the very beginning, which is fascinating. So that was very interesting because these one-atom gods came through. So we spoke to all the one-atom gods, with everyone that lives here. Where I stay, it's about 9 of us. Previously was 10 or 11 of us. And we did everyone's one-atom gods. And the one-atom gods is quite specific, because from that perspective they were able, we could understand what it is that we're experiencing in this moment, why it is that we have gone through certain experiences, and how did we get to where we are in this moment. And they also basically told everyone what's going to be happening to them in the near future. And what is the most... Now, this was about a year and a half ago, around there. And they were telling everyone what's going to be happening in their processes. And an interesting thing is, some of what they said to certain beings have already manifested. So, and we could only see it now, later, when we look back. And those were the first interviews we did as well, about a year and a half ago, as we were busy testing and investigating and exploring the dimensional existence. We interviewed everyone's one-atom gods. And what was interesting, when we watched it again, we said, but hey, that actually happened. That's happened. Okay, that not, because that changed there. And it was quite interesting. So we also removed the one-atom gods because they were also merely just inside human beings with information. Nothing of any directive support or application or self-expression of oneness and equality, process and life. And so they were also taken out and set free into the dimensional existence to go through processes of forgiveness. So they may set themselves free and express themselves in terms of starting to directly support and assist human beings on Earth through their individual processes. Now, what was interesting was, just on the higher selves and the one-atom gods, when we took both out of the human physical body and the mind consciousness system and the being within the human physical body, when they wanted to return inside to stand within and as human beings, they didn't want to go back in. It was just, they couldn't go back in, because we changed everything. The moment we took them out, we basically changed everything within the human being and their processes, because the one-atom gods and the higher selves were holding the whole mind consciousness system pre-programmed structure of consciousness, the pre-programmed and preordained life. So when we took out the one-atom god and the higher self, what happened was that we took out the whole pre-programmed system, purified, if you want to refer to it as that, the one-atom gods and the higher selves, in terms through forgiveness and extensive processes, and that's why they couldn't be placed back into the human physical body, because they serve no purpose in terms of any more supporting and assisting the mind consciousness pre-programmed life of the human being. And so what we did was we placed in sound within and as human beings, meaning removing the entire mind consciousness system pre-programmed life manifestation for all of humanity and the entire world in one moment, when we took out the one-atom God and the higher self together. So therefore, then we placed in sound mind, sound expression, all in each and every single human being's starting point of who they are really is sound, of oneness and equality. So it's not there was a replacement, it was a realization of who each and every single human being in existence is as sound of oneness and equality. So that moment we removed the mind consciousness system and all other pre-programmed, preordained, manifested systems of existence. And that's why the one-atom God and the higher selves could not return inside human beings, because they were still in their own individual processes. So the one-atom gods also assisted and supported for a while, but unfortunately, same with the higher selves, it just didn't work out, because both the higher selves and the one-atom gods were actually of systematic nature. They were designed dimensional systems. Now, systems have the ability to birth themselves as life through forgiveness and processes, but the one-atom gods and the higher selves just refused to. They wanted to remain systems. So, in terms of the dimensional existence, if you're not of life, you're able to be removed. In other words, you cease to exist, literally, because you're just a system. But as I will explain Satan also a bit later, but Satan was also of a system design, but through forgiveness and corrective applications and processes, he as a system birthed himself as life in the dimensions. He chose life, and thus at the moment the one-atom gods and the higher selves don't exist. That's why the sound structural resonance exists. That the sound structural resonance we placed in that time when we removed the one-atom God and the higher selves. Okay, this is Winged. Thank you very much.